He was a celebrated hero, a protector of the seas, and a man trusted by the king himself until he wasn't. William Kidd didn't just disappear into history, he left behind a trail of blood, a shattered reputation, and a fortune in gold that has remained buried for over 300 years. But here is the most chilling part. Before he was taken to the gallows, he whispered that his greatest secret wasn't the gold itself, but the impossible riddle he left behind to protect it. Tonight, we are going to look at the real-life map, the coded clues, and the exact spot where thousands of treasure hunters have failed. Is the fortune still waiting in the sand, or has it already been found by someone who kept the world in the dark? Subscribe to Mind 74. If you want to be the one to solve the riddles we uncover, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and turn on notifications. The adventure starts now. Welcome, Mind 74 adventurers. Today in Dossier 53, we travel back to the San Francisco Bay Area in 1968. Imagine a time of social change, but also a time of deep uncertainty and fear. The Zodiac did not just act in the dark. He forced himself into the light of the public eye. He wrote letters in a strange, complicated cipher, a system of symbols that experts spent decades trying to break. He demanded that his messages be printed on the front page, or else he threatened further harm. The newspapers, trapped in a moral dilemma, complied. This was exactly what the killer wanted. He was building a persona, creating a legendary character that the media could not ignore. The police worked around the clock, mapping out every location where he was spotted, trying to build a profile of a man who seemed to be everywhere at once. But the Zodiac was a master of evasion. He used public phones to make calls, always ensuring he was far away before the police could arrive. He played with the investigative process, leaving clues that were intentionally misleading. This was not a chaotic killer. It was a deliberate, calculated mastermind who treated the police like players in his own twisted game. He recorded his thoughts, his successes, and his challenges in his letters, creating a narrative that shifted with every communication. The intensity of the investigation was unlike anything the city had seen before. Every citizen was a potential witness, and every tip was treated with the highest urgency. This concludes our review of the initial terror and the beginning of the most complex psychological hunt in criminal history. The investigation into the Zodiac Killer is recorded as one of the most maddening challenges in forensic history, marking a period where traditional detective work was constantly undermined by the killer's elaborate games. Now, the San Francisco Bay Area became a landscape of fear. The detectives faced a complex web of letters, ciphers, and witness descriptions that rarely matched. The transformation of a local criminal into a national legend is a study in calculated theater and absolute malice. Legend says the Zodiac chose his locations not just for opportunity, but to send a message to the police. He utilized the techniques of psychological warfare, creating a system that would prevent the authorities from ever feeling secure. But he wasn't just causing fear. He was building a riddle that would outlive him. He knew that if he played this game, he would stay in the headlines, a contingency plan that would ensure his name was spoken for generations. He marked his letters with a specific circle and cross symbol, a branding move that turned him into a pop culture horror. He worked with total secrecy, preserving the integrity of his anonymous identity to ensure that only he knew the truth of his motives. He left a trail of breadcrumbs that forced the world to look for him, a path riddled with traps and empty promises. This behavior indicated a deep-seated need to control the narrative, manipulate the public, and maintain his position as a man of feared influence. He worked with chilling speed, knowing that every letter sent increased the chance of panic, but he was also cold, moving with a deliberate rhythm that suggested he had planned his games for months before the first strike. He documented his progress in his letters, cross-referencing his events with police statements to prove he was always watching. This was not a random or panic streak. It was a clinical, calculated operation designed to protect his ego for a specific future purpose. He utilized his knowledge of communication to ensure the games were structured correctly, drawing on theories of intelligence to build a mythology that would endure the harsh scrutiny of history. The forensic analysis of his ciphers performed decades later suggested he might have even used a multi-layered code, making the puzzle statistically impossible to break without the final keys he never revealed. The world heard swirling rumors of his identity, but for the public, it remained nothing more than a nightmare. He maintained the case file of his identity with complete, stony silence. His ability to conceal his life proved that he was a man who planned for every scenario, including the terrifying possibility that he would never be identified. He ensured that his name and the identity remained a permanent, haunting puzzle that future generations would struggle to solve. He was a master of his own fate, and in playing this game, he buried a piece of history that continues to drive people to the edge of insanity. The planning involved was meticulous, from the way he selected his stationery to the way he obscured his tracks in the city. Every move was weighed, and by the time the police arrived at his last known location, he had already become a phantom. The investigation into the Zodiac identity did not end with the first leads. It became a global obsession that lasted for over 50 years. Dozens of professional and amateur investigators dedicated their lives to solving the riddle of the symbols, exploring every potential connection from the California coast to the international academic community. The authorities utilized the services of specialized codebreakers, mathematicians, and forensic intelligence to trace the messages, but their efforts resulted in no definitive identification. The police also considered the possibility that the killer was a lone wolf, a final defiant statement created by someone who realized he could never be caught, but this was never confirmed. The search for the killer became a national fascination, with citizens flooding the government with potential sightings and claims from individuals who reported seeing someone with his distinctive profile. The investigators verified each tip, but they never discovered the man behind the persona. The case remained the most significant unsolved mystery in the history of American crime. Modern detectives continue to utilize technology to search for clues, including advanced DNA analysis of the postage stamps and envelopes used as letters. They found small fibers and skin particles, but they could not verify if the killer had left them intentionally to misguide the search. The mystery deepened as the years passed without a breakthrough. We honor the memory of the victims and the investigators who dedicated their lives to this. The legacy of Dossier 53 is a lesson in the complexity of investigative mysteries and the potential for individuals to vanish without a trace. We are operating with a better understanding of the psychology behind these calculated decisions. We documented the full sequence of the mystery. This concludes our review of the endless search and the suspects who range from teachers to local criminals. The search for knowledge regarding the killer continues in the archives of history. The investigation into the Zodiac remains an open file, a testament to the fact that some secrets are kept very well. We hold the memory of the case in the light of our research. The facts remain, and the record endures. The hunt for the truth has become a story of its own, woven into the fabric of true crime lore. Every generation brings new people who believe they have found the secret, only to find more symbols and silence. It is a story about the power of myth, about why we are drawn to the idea of a shadow who can taunt the law. The case files continue to circulate, and the obsession shows no signs of waning. Each new piece of technology brings a flicker of hope, but the Zodiac remains one step ahead, his secrets buried deep under layers of time. We examine these failed attempts not to mock them, but to respect the sheer scale of the puzzle. It is a testament to his intelligence that he managed to build a legacy that remains untouchable by modern science. The case keeps its secrets well, and perhaps it is better that way, for as long as the Zodiac remains unidentified, the legend will never die. We have explored the archives, listened to the theories, and walked the paths of those who came before us. This is the enduring power of the unknown. The story of the Zodiac Killer is a wild ride full of dangerous turns that continues to challenge our understanding of criminal history and human mystery. It shows us that a single individual can change the atmosphere of a nation, and it became a study in the complexity of psychological motivation. We look at this not just as a hunt for a shadow, but as a giant puzzle that teaches us to be curious about how we define criminal legends. The truth remains in the records, waiting for those who study the facts. The legacy of Dossier 53 is a lesson in the resilience of human curiosity and the terrifying potential for mystery to endure. We are operating with a better understanding of the realities of forensic investigation and the impact of systemic pressure. We honor the memory of the countless individuals whose lives were dedicated to solving this riddle, whose stories are also recorded in the official archives. The Zodiac legend stands as a definitive point in the history of international mystery. The world shifted in the aftermath of the 1960s. The archives are open, and the story continues to unfold as we look into the past. We remain satisfied that the investigation was as thorough as possible, but the mystery of the Zodiac is one of the most enduring stories of our time. It serves as a study in how we define what is lost and what remains to be found. The truth regarding the perpetrator remains hidden in the records, waiting for those who continue to search. We leave the story here for the next generation of investigators. Never stop asking questions and never stop exploring the unknown. The world is waiting for your discovery. The search for knowledge regarding the Zodiac continues. He stopped his work in the 70s, but his presence in the cultural record is permanent. The legacy of Dossier 53 will remain as a reminder of the fragility of the peace we often take for granted. We hold the memory of the victims whose lives were forever changed. His story is more than just crime. It is a warning about the choices we make and how those choices echo through the centuries. We have laid out the facts, the legends, and the enduring questions that keep us up at night. The case may be cold, but the fire of discovery still burns bright. As we move forward, let these lessons remind you that the world is bigger than we think, and there are always new stories waiting to be told. Whether you are a fan of history, mystery, or just a good old-fashioned crime story, the Zodiac case provides everything you need to keep your mind active and your spirit adventurous. We have reached the final chapter of this dossier, but the book of history is never truly closed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the foggy streets and cryptic letters of the past. You have walked the path of the investigator, felt the weight of the mystery, and seen the impact of a man who dared to challenge the power of the press and the police. May your curiosity lead you to your own great discoveries, and may your own story be one worth telling. Subscribe to Mind 74. If you reached the end, thank you for being the best adventurers out there. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a dossier. Comment below, if you were in charge of this case, what would you do differently? Share this video with your best friends and join the hunt. We'll see you at the next mystery. Keep exploring.